Ladies and gentlemen, we finally have the dates, and this is a very, very exciting time in crypto history and even in financial history. That's right. We officially have the dates that the DTCC plans to accelerate and ultimately begin its $114 trillion tokenization plan. And guys, I am very excited about this. Now, let's start off with the fact that the DTCC has been going crazy about tokenization, about DLT, and just about crypto itself. It all started after they announced the plan to tokenize $114 trillion. On June 18th, they posted about how the DTCC has a 50-plus year history of delivering trust, resilience, and even scale to global financial markets. They are building on that foundation by advancing a scalable, interoperable, and risk-managed approach to emerging Web3 capabilities, leveraging DLT to support industry innovation. Now, yeah, they're basically all in on digital assets because they know that this is basically the future of finance. We go all the way back to 2023, where they acquired Securency. That was definitely a huge move. We talked about it. After that, they launched the digital launchpad in October of 2024. February 2025, they announced Composer X. This was all to accelerate institutional digital asset adoption. And then they have the Great Collateral Experiment in April of 2025. Again, this is all through, utilizing DLT and crypto and things like that for operational efficiency. And then we have December 2025, the SEC no action letter to the DTC. This was all to tokenize real world assets. Then we get the first partner announced, which was Canton. And then May of 2026, Industry Working Group. DTCC convenes more than 50 firms to drive digital asset adoption. And then we have the collaboration across the ecosystem. They announce with Stellar and also Canton, as well as app chain integration with Chainlink, which can connect back to so many other networks, that they are going to tap in with the DTC's tokenization service. So they have been actively participating in this space and around this space since going back to 2023. And we already know that it's been a lot longer than that, but that's when they, really kind of started to make a ton of noise within the industry. But then they also posted about tokenization is reshaping how value moves across markets with the potential to reduce friction, accelerate settlement, and enhance liquidity and asset mobility. Again, mind you, this is like the biggest name in finance selling everyone on tokenization. If you are in finance, you 100% know about the DTCC. And if you are reading what they are announcing here and what they're promoting and what they're talking about, you are trying to get as prepared as possible for this next big phase. The next big phase is, of course, tokenization of every single asset in the world. And that's why I keep saying that, they are a major switch to be flipped, because the second that they flip the switch to tokenization, every single big name is going to follow through. Now, to build on top of that, we do have over here, traditional and tokenized assets represent the same underlying asset. Tokenization rethinks how that asset is recorded, transferred, and accessed across markets. And this is from June 26th. This is their newest announcement, behind tokenization. And this is just kind of comparing both of the traditional real world assets versus tokenized real world assets. And of course, yes, this links to their advancing tokenization at institutional scale page, which we already talked about on multiple occasions. But this is just to kind of promote their tokenization service, which is going to be going live in just a few weeks. Now, before we really get into that, I do want to go over here because we do have from Hunter Horsley, who is the CEO at Bitwise. First, stablecoins tokenized $300 billion of dollars. Next, hundreds of billions of other exposures will be tokenized. In fact, the amount of money in dollars is much smaller than everything else. In hindsight, it will be obvious. And here we have wealth is moving on chain. The speed and scale of this megatrend is extraordinary. And what's crazy about it is we think that this is a crazy amount. All right, we just surpassed $30 billion. It happened very quickly. Back in 2025, we were sub 10 billion. All of a sudden we're at 30 billion. It's happening fast. Sure, it is. But we are talking about drops of water in the bucket compared to what's going to hit the tokenization market. $114 trillion we're talking about being tokenized. This has barely started. But yeah, it's going to be a lot more obvious in time. Like we're going to look back at what's been happening here and like what's going on. And that's when people will really kind of realize like, wow, like this is actually happening. Like this is really, becoming a big deal. And they're probably not going to say that until we hit like $100 billion, honestly, because at that point, like it's going to be so obvious, but it's going to be even crazier when we surpass $1 trillion. And that's coming. And of course, Ripple is a big name behind all of this. We've talked about it. We have over here from Chad Steingruber that RWA perpetual futures have also skyrocketed in just a few months, continuing to climb. Think of this as the new ICO mania about to take off. RWAs are going to be the new gold rush of Wall Street with real utility in real world assets. Now, yeah, RWA perps have been going kind of crazy lately. We even have down here from Frank Shapiro that their volume climbed 10.4% to a record 211 billion, with Binance capturing 55.7% of the market. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting to watch these things kind of evolve and grow and expand. It's definitely been a rapid growth lately, but the main thing that we really kind of look at is like, all right, well, where do we go next? And ultimately, we go to mass adoption of tokenized assets next. And I think that it all begins in July with the DTCC. Now, Ripple recently did get invited to a closed door panel in Monaco with some of the biggest names in institutional finance. The whole agenda here was, T+0 settlement and RWA tokenization. The $300 trillion opportunity, as they are mentioning it here. And of course, yes, Ripple is a part of the show. Ripple is always a part of these major meetings that are like fully closed door meetings. This is actually with the SVP of Trading and Markets at Ripple. And what's crazy about this is like, again, like I've talked about it on so many occasions where like, if you look at like the BIS or the IMF or like even like the World Economic Forum, every single one of their like major meetings or documents or whatever the case may be, if they are talking about digital assets, if they're talking about tokenization, if they're talking about payments, stablecoins, cross-border payments, whatever, Ripple is always brought up. Ripple's always included. Maybe even XRP is being mentioned. And people think that like, oh, it's just because like, Ripple's a big name in the space, like whatever. But no, like there's not a lot of other names mentioned at all, but like Ripple is always one to pop up. And I've stated many times over in the past that like, that's not a coincidence. Like that's, by design. That's because Ripple is, a part of this big move and they are a crucial pillar. But on top of that, let's go back to what the DTCC is about to do, because they gave us a full date. Here we have from Chartner TA, here we go. The DTCC just confirmed its tokenization service soft launch will occur via a one-day event for test cases on July 13th, operating across 2 blockchains with traditional assets to showcase interoperability. The full-scale rollout is on target for October of this year. And guys, we're talking about just a little over 2 weeks away. Just a little over 2 weeks away from this full-on push from the DTCC. Check it out.
And so in July, we're going to have an event, not calling it a pilot. It's an event where we are going to have a limited number of participants using real live traditional DTC securities held by those participants, enable them to tokenize it, and do a one-day event where they'll have different test cases, different protocols, different app chains, at the moment at least 2 different blockchains that they'll be able to move the assets on. And then obviously receive as much information we can from that event, and then go live with the service in October is the plan. Again, still kind of crawl, walk, run. Everything will be limited securities, and everything will be controlled through DTC, just to make sure we are still serving as like a good control location for our broker dealers and our banks. But very excited to be really moving, and it's, from my legal side, coming much more quickly than we're probably comfortable with.
And yeah, I mean, this is happening extremely fast. Like people don't realize like how quick these things are moving, and it's only going to start to accelerate more and more and more after all of these big names. Like the second that the DTCC officially goes live, like we're not going to have to wait much longer until like some of the other bigger names start to jump in as well, because it just takes one major player to make an example. I said this even with like banks, right? Like if we think about like banks mass adopting crypto, all it takes is like one big name. Like for an example, all right, we see JP Morgan go live. All right, well, if JP Morgan goes live, all of a sudden you have Citi, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Like it just takes one big name to make an example. Now we do know that July has always been the date a bit, you know, in terms of like the month, but we never really got a full-on date until now. Even Nadine Shakar stated that July 13th is the date. So we are seeing a clear confirmation across the board. Check this video out.
We custody about $115 trillion. So we're the only post-trade service in the United States. We handle about 1.4 million CUSIPs and $4 quadrillion in settlement. So we are by large.
Hold on a second. We were like, let's just get these comparisons here. So your number.
There's a little rivalry here. Nothing.
It's fine. The U.S. is always bigger and better, so we're happy with that.
And we're in Florida, not even in Texas. So yes, you're right. How many extra points for how many zeros are in the quadrillion? I mean, the numbers are really impressive. And if you saw this morning, so in December, we actually were granted by the SEC a no action letter, which really propagated our ability to move forward and tokenize U.S. markets. And as Jürgen said, they're the largest markets that are out there. And this morning, we announced that on July 13th, we will start with the first tokenization of U.S. assets officially from the depository. And we're calling it a soft launch to really help the industry get ready for the big launch that will occur in October. So this is no longer a pipe dream. This is no longer talking about proof of concepts. We are ready to go. And with the pipes that Ryan is building, and I know, Rajiv, you're going to talk about the risk side of things, we're ready to go, guys. So this is happening. And slowly but surely, the U.S. market is coming on rails, on blockchain, and we're going to tokenize and manage our future. So that's what we're doing.
So yeah, I mean, it's happening. We are no longer in the, I wonder if tokenization is going to be a big deal or not. We're done with the pilot phases. We're done with all of the testing, the experiments, all that kind of stuff. Like right now, yeah, sure, we're about to run some tests in July for this, but they have to, especially considering the fact that it's $114 trillion. But the second that this starts to really kind of go live, we're kind of moving away from the walking phase. And what exactly do I mean by that? Well, you know, Brad Garlinghouse, you know, he put this like fully straightforward for all of us to listen. First you crawl, then you walk, then you run. This saying continues to be a common theme among tokenization and payments. First, Brad quotes this in discussion around 30% of Ripple Treasury's payments coming on chain in 5 years. Now the DTCC references the same for its tokenization efforts. And yeah, it's because the second that you start to, you know, get to that point of like, all right, well, let's kind of trial this. That's like the crawling phase. The walking phase is the testing, and then the running phase is when it actually officially goes live. We are about to watch the running phase kick in by the end of this year. Like, we're no longer questioning if this is the future. It is the future. All we have to do is be patient for it to officially go live. Check this out.
It's going to be crawl, then walk, and then run. And those 13 trillion, you know, I'll go out on a limb and say 5 years from now, you know, I'll say 30% of that in 5 years will be on chain in some way. And it's going to be.
So yeah, we are in the phase where we are about to run very, very fast. And I am very excited about this moment in history because, again, like, we have now the biggest name in the game of finance going on chain. Less than just a little over 2 weeks, right? Just a little over 2 weeks, and we are seeing the DTCC flip the big switch. Are we going to see immediate price action? Are we going to see overnight explosions to $100? No. But this is the beginning of something very special. It's the beginning of the acceleration phase. where from this point on, we are going to see so many major moves get accelerated because of what the DTCC just announced and what they're about to do. This is the moment that we have all been waiting for, and it's finally here. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely like, subscribe to notifications on for some more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, Nick, thanks for watching. Peace out, guys.